So welcome everyone. My name is Max. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to say a few words. If you are looking to keep up to date with upcoming events and webinars, such as this one, you can register for all courses on our platform bijb.study. And if you are looking to become a trainer, you can fill out a questionnaire at bijb.study/trainer. You can find the links in the chats. There they are. And now for today's presentation, Storytelling with Data by Dr. Nisha Arora, a proficient educator, passionate trainer, and an occasional writer. She is dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge and is here to share with us today. So Dr. Nisha, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my screen also. And before I start, just confirm me if you can see my screen. So it's visible to everyone?
Yes, we can see it.
Fine. So today's topic is storytelling with data. And I was going through some of the attendees and I have seen that there are different participants from different domains. Some are already working with data, analysts or something. Some are storytellers, but they don't know how to do it with data. And some are just learning it out of curiosity. So if you don't know what is a storytelling with data, what comes to your mind when you hear the word storytelling? Storytelling, we always remember the stories which we used to hear in our childhood. Our mothers or grandmothers or someone used to tell us some interesting story. So let me take you to your childhood and then we will try to relate it to storytelling with data. So I'm just talking about a very simple story of Thirsty Crow, and I assume you might have heard about it. If you have not done yet, these pictures are depicting very well the story that there was a crow, and one day the crow was very thirsty and looking for water. It was taking quite a long time. He was not able to find the water. Suddenly he saw a pot of water, felt excited, but when it tried to drink water from the pot, it realized that the water level is very low. So it can't reach the water level. So he thought of some idea. There were some pebbles and stones nearby. He has collected all the pebbles and one by one dropped those in the water. Water level rose up and finally drank water and happily flew away. So this was the childhood story which I used to hear a lot of time, and I tell the same story to my kid. So when I have discussed this story to you, what message did you get out of this story? Can you think of a message which you get out of this story? So just pause for a second and think for a message. So I believe most of you will say that the message which we get is we should never give up. We should keep on trying. Even if we say that it's not possible, we should not give up and we should find out some ways, and maybe at times we need to think out of the box and we will find the solution. Yes, that's the message. But for me, there is one more message hidden in the story here. And the message here is when I tell this story to my toddler, I tell this story in different ways and maybe in different language, English and Hindi. And I try to convey her one more message. The message is she should understand the logic behind if she will put anything in the water, pebbles or some object, then the water level will rise up. So the science behind that thing, I also try to teach her. So we do a simple experiment at home and I teach her that how things happens in reality. If you put something in water, why water level rise up. So the point I'm trying to convey is if I tell the same story to my kid, I modify it a little bit, or maybe I change my language or my expression, or I change something to make it interesting for her. And also what I'm trying to convey to her, I change my focus to that. So even that you get the message that we should never give up. But if my focus is to convey her the message of the science behind why water level is rising up, I will stress more on that point so that she will ask questions, she will try to explore this thing, and she will at times while playing do the experiment or do the activity to understand it more. Same thing happens when we do storytelling with data. We need to first of all understand our audience, and we need to mold our story according to our audience. Secondly, we need to focus on what we are trying to convey to our audience using the data storytelling or data visualization, and then we can modify our story or maybe our narration, or we can highlight some part. We will see these things with the actual charts and how that can be done. But I hope those who have never done data storytelling, those who are new to data or analytics, they will find the topic interesting when they can relate it to any story. Earlier I was thinking, should I take the example of Harry Potter or should I take the example of Avenger movie? But then I thought of taking this example, and I hope you will find this interesting. So today's topic is, we will talk about particularly data storytelling. Now, when we see data storytelling, most of the people think that it's about graphs. It's about graphs also, but it's about text. At times we can tell stories with numbers also, with text or with tables also. But yes, most of the time it's data storytelling using visuals. So we will be also focusing more on visuals. We will see some examples here and there using text or numbers. So before we start our actual discussion, let me make one thing clear, that we are not focusing on any of the visualization tools or libraries or framework. So we will not be doing any specific topic on those things. Plus, we are not focusing on any specific work which you do. So some of you might be doing infographics in your day-to-day work, or maybe this one is dashboards. You might be using Power BI or TableU or something like that to create dashboards. Or you simply might be exploring your data using R or Python something. So we would not be specifically discussing any of these domains. We would be just focusing our talk on storytelling with data, which is here in this diagram. And we will see many other stories which you will understand how this is a good story or how you can improve your story. This is the statement of Ben Willington. He is basically the creator of the blog iQuant New York, if you have gone through his blog. And he was earlier working as a data scientist in some company, and he was also having the interest in urban planning. But he was not using his data science skill for urban planning to improve something in New York City where he lives. But in 2011, when government made public data available to everyone, so he got interested. He have picked up some data for urban planning in New York City because he knew so many things about his city. And he has tried to create some visuals, some infographics, try to understand those visuals and analyze. And if you will look, if you will listen to his TED talk, I can share you with the link later on. So he tells that how his stories has created a great impact, how he has made people to, his stories was published everywhere, government, police department, DOT, everyone got impressed, and they have taken the actions wherever it was required. So if time allows us, we will see some of his stories later on, else you can later on also explore his stories. Now, when we say that we do data visualization, we present it to something, we need to be very careful, because whatever we'll present in a PowerPoint slide or maybe in a report, usually people will trust, and they will trust that data. So even I'm not sure if the data is correct here, 86.4, even if it is in actual life 88 or something else. But I have shown you this, and I will say that 86.4% people believe. You will believe me also. So that's fun. That is why it's quite possible to tell statistical lies these days with the charts. Later in the presentation, I'll show you some of the statistical lies and how people make their point by showing you some of the charts which are favorable to them, but which are not telling you the complete truth. So it's also a very important point that when you create chart, you need to keep in mind not to tell lies with your charts. Now let's talk about what's the difference between visualization and storytelling. So I think visualization, you all know that if we create charts or graphs using some tool, then it is known as data visualization. Storytelling comes into the picture when you don't just create a chart, you try to get some insight about a particular issue or particular problem. You try to understand that problem, you try to solve that problem, you try to find out what action can be taken to resolve those things. So we will see one or two examples right now to understand that visualization becomes storytelling when you solve a problem using some narrations, and there are different key points to storytelling. We will discuss those one by one. So before that, just one more slide for theory, then we will take it in, see it in action, how that happens. So these are the elements of storytelling. So what happens is, if we have a data, and if I show you an Excel file with suppose 50 rows and 10,000 columns, I mean 50 columns and 10,000 rows, I think you will not be able to make any information out of it quickly if I just show you some data, right? But if I add some narration to your data, so narration means I explain what are the variables, what do they represent, what are the relationship between the variables, how they behave, and what do we expect with them, these variables, what we are trying to do with that data. So when we add narration to data, we are able to explain it better. But if we add visuals to the data, means the same data, instead of showing you the data in Excel format or any other format, if I represent the data visually in the form of charts or graph, maybe more people will be able to understand that relationship between the variables or the patterns in the data. So it's kind of enlightening the audience by using the visuals. So you see these days, like COVID-19 also, if I show you the data of current status in a large data file, it would be hard to read that. But if I show you the visuals, how it is increasing, how it is flattening the curve, how recovery rate is going on, then probably you will get more insight. So visuals are important. If you add narration to your visuals, you are definitely able to engage the audience more, and you are definitely able to tell them more information. You are definitely able to convince them more about what you are trying to explain. But magic happens when you combine all these three things: data, visuals, and narration. So you need to use all these three things wisely, keep a balance, and then you can tell a very great data storytelling. Then you can do a great storytelling. But when I talk about storytelling, so those participants who are not from data, but who are from the background of storytelling, they might be thinking about the narrative arc. Yes, there is a narrative arc to make the story great. So usually the story should go like this. There should be some setup point, then there should be some issue here, then the rising tension, there should be some climax, and finally you do something and you get some insight and some action point or impact here. So it should go like this kind of a curve to make your story interesting. Usually what data analysts do when they try to get insight about some problem, they take some data, they use some tools, they do some math, I mean statistical analysis, they do some ML algorithm, whatever they are trying to do, they do some charting, and finally they give you some results or some action points what you need to do for that problem. So usually they take this path, which is linear path. So this path is very abstract. Those who don't understand data, those who don't understand analysis, those who don't understand statistics or tools or all those sort of technical jargons, they will not be able to relate to it very much, and you will not be able to convince them that much as you can do them with a story. I hope you all can see my presentation also.
Nisha, we see only the image.
Which image? You can't see my slides going on? These slides?
Yes, we see the slides, visualization via storytelling.
Okay. But I think you are not able to see this slide which I have shared with you, storytelling elements which I was discussing with the Venn diagram.
Sorry, I didn't realize. No, it was actually stuck on the first slide until just now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
You
stuck
should.
on the first one actually.
Okay, okay. You should have told me this was the first slide
Sorry, I
and
didn't
then.
realize it was
Anyways, now you can see it. These
Yeah.
slides. Okay, okay.
Yes.
Anyways, these slides would be available with you after the topic is done, so you can share it with the participant. But like I'm showing you the slide of data visualization tools and libraries. Can you see the slide?
We see the slide. I'm a data scholar. If you had asked me years
No,
ago.
no,
No.
that's not the slide which I am showing you. Give me a moment. That's not the slide which I was showing you. Can you see this slide now?
Visualization tools and
Yeah,
the libraries. Yeah.
Give me a moment. I'm not able to move it or browse it. Give me a moment, please. Is it visible now?
right now we're looking at graphs.
Yeah, yeah, these graphs, and I have shown you this. After that, the chart which talks about, yeah, I think there is some lag in between. 86%. And this slide you can see now storytelling elements.
Yeah, now we can see them.
Okay, okay, fine. So I have shown you all these slides, and I think something happened with the tool, so you were not able to see that. But anyways, it was not very technical. I was just talking about the basics, what we are trying to cover. So we can quickly go to the slide where we were. Yeah. So in data storytelling also, we were talking about the narrative arc, why it is important. I was talking about that in a storytelling, we start with a setup, then we have some issue, some problem, then rising tension, we try to address, we reach up to climax, we try to address, and then we add something interesting solution and we end up here. If you relate it to the Harry Potter movie, if you have seen that, so there were Horcruxes which he was trying to find out. And initially, when he got to know about there are Horcruxes and which he need to find to kill the Dark Lord, and he had no idea where to find them. And as we move in the movie or in the book, if you have read Harry Potter book, you see that there are so many things which are making the finding very difficult, and kind of rising of tension, and everyone is glued to that movie or to that book, what happens next, how he is able to find out, and finally something happens, he has done something and he is able to find out. So there is kind of a narrative arc in any story to make it interesting, especially the fiction movies and the interesting stories. In data science process, usually how data scientist or data analyst present their result, it's very abstract linear path. They do these things, they take a data, work on some tool, do some statistical analysis, some ML algorithm, data processing, cleaning, deployment, everything, and finally they show up some results and some action insights that you should do this. But this is not an interesting path for everyone. If the data analyst or data scientist or data engineer or ML engineer, they show it to their boss, what to do with that data, what's the problem, the business problem that they are trying to solve, they give the solution. It is not that interesting for everyone, plus it is not that convincing. So it's a very important aspect of data scientist or data analyst job also, that how they present their finding, how they convince their supervisor, and how they, even if you are doing exploratory data analysis, so how do you show, how do you report your results to someone? So that skill is needed, data storytelling skill is needed, how you communicate your result to your audience. So we will see some examples. I think someone is not on mute. Please, all the participants, mute yourself. Or maybe the host can help you to do that. Yeah. So let's look at our first story. So our first story is about sales of a product. And this chart shows here the sales on y-axis, and here we have timelines. So we see from December 2015 when the product was launched until we have December 17, or maybe after a few more months after that. So in this chart, we see that sales is increasing every month, except to this part here. So here is the point of concern, because ever since the product was launched, the sales was increasing. Why it is decreasing here after December 17? So in Jan 2018, the sales is down for the first time ever in the history of that company for that product. And in fact, it continues to decrease. So it's a point of worry to that company managers. What's going wrong? Why the sales is decreasing? So it's the problem you are trying to solve as a data analyst or as a data scientist. Now, when you try to solve the problem, you have a data of sales, you have so many things with you. You do explore, you find out insights, but when you are telling a story, you just show up the story which really works. You will not show all the work which you have done, you will just show the thing which have worked for you. So when you have done, you have analyzed the sales of the products for different channels. So suppose you are selling the product by different channels, wholesale, retail, and internet, you have plotted them separately. So earlier your graph was for total sales, maybe starting from here 400,000 and something like going up like this. But when you have done channel wise, it was like this. You realize that wholesale sale is still increasing, retail sale is still increasing, but the issue is here with the internet sale, it's going down after this time point. So if you look at this chart, you immediately get an insight that the problem is here. But why the problem is here, why the internet sale is going down for that product, that's your job to explore. So if you try to further explore that thing, you need to think that maybe wherever you are selling, maybe you have some competitors there, maybe you are lacking some marketing or some issues with that you are not getting customers to your website, they are not reviewing your product. So you try to get more insight. Again, you will do a lot of data analysis in that, but you will show the result. Here, you look at the important factor here, which gives you more insight. We have abandoned cart rate and we have timeline here, and you get an insight here that on an average for your product, the abandoned cart rate is 7%. It means the person is putting your item in the cart, but is not buying the product finally. So at the last moment, person is deciding not to buy your product, but to buy someone else's product. So you see, on an average, you get the 7% rate. But here, the rate is increasing, and you see that in January, it is 56%, in February it is this, and in March it is 71%. So you realize that something happens terribly wrong after December 17 or maybe after January 2018, that people are putting your item in the cart, but somehow they are not buying your product. So why they are not buying your product? If there is someone else, new seller who is coming up after this timeline, who is offering a great discount, or maybe some new technology innovation has come up, your product is not fitting their requirement, or maybe something wrong with that. So you try to analyze that and you come up with this picture. And it's the twist in the story. What you realize is that the people were not able to buy that product because there was no inventory. So you see here that in Jan 2018 or prior, only 1.2% products were not bought by the consumers because there was no inventory. They were willing to buy, but when they tried to buy the product, when they were trying to make payment, there was a message that this item is out of stock, you cannot buy this. So only 1.2%. But in these 2 months, it is almost 95%, 94.4%. So basically in these 2 months, you have a problem of stocks. You don't have stocks. Who will buy your product? How they will buy your product? So it's a surprising insight which you got when you have analyzed deep down. Earlier you were thinking that the problem is with the sales, that people are not willing to buy your product. So maybe you need to work with your marketing team, your sales team to increase your sales. But now you got insight that the problem is not with the sales. People are still willing to buy the product, but the problem is with the inventory. So now probably in your company, operations and supply chain team need to work on the problem. They need to think why there is a problem of stock out. They need to think whether there is transportation problem or whether there is problem with the supplier, or maybe some new rules and regulation, maybe some import export problem, something wrong that they are not able to fill up the inventory on time and they are losing customer. So it's their problem. As a marketing guy, your problem is solved, and you are now happy to show your manager that month over month sales would have continued to increase here also, and we are seeing this decrease only because we don't have stock, we don't have inventory. So here you have made an impact. You can convince your manager and you can get further insight of this problem, how to solve this problem. Example of how you can create a story using the charts. If you just show 1 or 2 charts, nobody will understand. But if you have done a deep down analysis, you are showing the charts, and if you have noticed till now, in these charts you have used text also, which is writing the important message for everyone to understand. You have used colors very wisely to highlight the issue, and you have used decluttering of the chart. We will talk about the designs issue so that you can highlight more on the message you are trying to convey. So it's a great example of data storytelling. Now, storytelling is only needed when the insights are hard to understand and the business impact is high. So you don't need data storytelling when you are just exploring your data, you are just trying to find relationship, you are just trying to fill up your missing values, you are trying to find important features. You don't need a storytelling every time you do a graph. You need it when you have some business impact to show somebody, and that is otherwise difficult to understand. Then you need a complete storytelling for that particular problem. So do we always need visuals for storytelling? No, we can do it with tables also, but the common type is visuals. Now I'll make it little quick because we need to talk so many things about the key points of storytelling. So if I show you this data about fiscal year 14 investment for some company, this column is the data for 13, fiscal year 2013, and these are the columns for 14. I'm not talking about in details what are impressions, click-through rates, conversion rate, cost per click. Those who are from marketing, they might understand the terminology. But the point I'm trying to convey is, if I just throw a table to you like this, I think you will not be able to get more insight out of it in a glance at least. So what we do is, if you want to create a story, first of all, we need to reduce the clutter. So these are the small percentages written in small fonts. And these percentages are basically of no use. We can compute them with these numbers. So if we just remove the percentages, it looks little better now. Still, if we try to read the story, or if we try to read the table, it's too much. There is so much information to read in a glance. But what we know here, these points we will discuss again in decluttering your visuals, that we see redundancy here. For the CTR, click-through rate, in 2014 it is going to be same, 3.44, because it is predicted CTR. Conversion rate is 1.19 throughout, it is 2.76 throughout. So we have redundancy, we don't need to write it multiple times. We can save space, we can make a clean table. So if we remove that, we get this table. So you notice we have written the CTR and numbers here, and now tables look little better. But if you show this table to your boss and you try to convey that to get more sales, we need to have this much investment, or maybe we need to have this much investment for this particular channel, whatever it is. We are not going in the details of these variables. But if you try to convince that, he would not like that. Nobody likes when you ask money. So you want to show, or you want to convince your manager or your boss to get investment, then you need to show something useful to him. You need to show, if you invest this much amount, how much you will gain by whatever marketing strategy you are doing, the clicks and all those things. So you need to compute how much economic value you will generate out of if you put a fixed amount of investment on that. So you need to have understanding of some business KPI or sales related terminology. If you compute the economic value and you show the net worth here. But what you have done a small change in the table. Now the investment row you have put up in the top. So it's not highlighted. It's in white color. It's not highlighted. What is highlighted here is net revenue. So now you are highlighting this row to your boss, and you are saying that our net revenue would be increased by these many dollars if you give us this much investment. So now you are in a better position to convince your boss. Whether you are able to convince or not, or they are of different opinion, you need to show him different charts, or you need to do something more to convince him. That's a different story. But this table is much better than the first table which we have discussed. So when you try to tell a story, you need to think on all these aspects, removing the clutter, where you want to focus, what problem you are trying to solve. So these all aspects you need to keep in mind. Now, what makes a great data story? So these are some key points. First and foremost is the context. You must have the understanding of your audience. You must have the understanding of in what context you are talking about, in what context you are presenting your story. And second point is choosing the appropriate visual display. So you need to have an understanding what kind of chart you need to select. Now this topic is quite lengthy, so we will just be discussing some highlights, but there are so many chart types to select from. For a single data, you have multiple options of which chart to select, how to not to do the common mistakes which the beginners do. All these things we can't discuss in today's talk, but I'll just give you some highlights. And I am planning to create a YouTube video on that, so I'll upload that once it is finished. It will give you not complete, but the important common visuals, how to select those. We will talk about eliminating clutter, we will talk about focus, and you need to think like a designer, and finally you will be able to tell a story. So these are key points which you need to keep in mind whenever you are telling a story. Whenever we talk about context, first of all, we need to understand whether we are doing data visualization for exploratory purpose or explanatory purpose. And it's very clear with the name also. If you are trying to explore your data, usually the analysts try to explore their data to find out some insights, to find out some patterns, some relationship, some missing values filling, some important predictors. So these kind of things, if they do, it comes under the heading of exploratory data analysis. And secondly, if you try to explain your data or explain your chart, it means you already got some insight which is not that easy or obvious to understand for your audience, and you try to explain it to those, then you need a data storytelling. So usually for exploratory part, we don't create a data story. For explanatory part, we create data storytelling. But yes, there might be some exception. If you are choosing some predictors and you want to show why you have chosen those predictors with some graphs, you might create a story for that also. But usually we work in explanatory space when we are working with data storytelling. Second important aspect is you need to know who is your audience. So if you are telling your story, I mean data story, whenever I am talking about story, it is data story. If you are telling your story to someone who is a layman, who don't understand statistics, who don't understand data, who don't understand numbers, who don't understand charts, you would like to make it as simple as possible. So bar charts, pie charts, these are comparatively easy to read. Even those who don't understand statistics, they can at least understand these kind of simple charts. But if your audience is data geek, you might want to use different charts, or you might want to use different designs of those charts. So it depends. Secondly, if your audience involves, you are presenting something to CEO of your company, you might be presenting it differently. If you are presenting something to some of your colleague or your junior, you might be presenting it differently. So depending upon who is your audience, what you are trying to present, how you are trying to present changes. So what do you need them to know or do? This is the important point. You need to decide what you try to convey. So this is the main point which you want your audience to get out of that story. As we have seen in the Thirsty Crow story, if your main point to convey the message not to give up, then you will focus more on that point. If your point to convey the message that the science behind why water level is rising up, or if you just try to point focus your point that you need to at times think out of the box. So instead of flying again and looking for another pot, you need to think out of the box. What can you do with the pebbles or with the resources available with you? Then you need to focus more on that aspect. So similarly in data storytelling also, you need to decide what is the main point you want to convey to your audience. Otherwise, what can happen is you are trying to convey some other point, you have shown some chart, and you have not used the focus or pre-attentive attributes carefully. Focus of your audience is going to some other point. It happens in otherwise also in presentation also, you are trying to convey something, but in your slide there is something written here and your audience attention is going to that point which is not matching with the flow of the presentation. But someone might point out and you are spending more time to explain the point which is not that relevant and which is not the point you are trying to convey to the audience. So keep in mind the main point also. Now we have already discussed context, and it is also important to understand that how you are presenting. So I have taken this image from a book of Cole for data storytelling. If you are presenting something live to your audience, you have high amount of control. You can add narrations whenever required. You can look at participants' expression, their reactions, and you can change your narration. You can change your teaching style. You can change your reports also with the same charts. Way of presenting you can change. But if you are presenting the report in the form of a written document, you are just creating a report and you need to submit it somewhere through an email or some platform, then you don't have that much control over there. You have very less control. Whatever you have prepared in the form of a PDF or HTML, whatever, now it's up to the audience how they conceive that, how they understand that. Here you need to be more explanative. You need to narrate it more, and you need to use more explanation to your report so that they understand, so that they get the point which you are trying to convey to them. So be careful how you are presenting, where you are presenting. Now selecting the appropriate visual, as I said, it's a very lengthy technical topic which we are not talking right now, but the common charts which you will see in storytelling are bar charts. When I say bar charts, we have vertical bar charts like this, we have horizontal bar charts also, we have stacked bar chart also, grouped bar chart also. So all these things, this is the example of grouped bar chart, and if I create a stacked bar chart, it would be like this. So for example, if you have some variable which is categorical in nature, you just want to show the composition, you can use simple bar chart which is like this. For example, you are talking about sales of 5 products in a company. So you can write here product 1, product 2, product 3, 4, 5 products, and sales on y-axis, numbers on y-axis, and you can make a bar chart on that over there. So if you have sales of 5 products through different channels, you can use a stacked bar chart. So as we have seen that time, wholesale and retail and internet, then you can create different stacks. So one stack represent wholesale, one stack represent retail, and another stack might represent internet. And similarly here also you have the stacks. but stacks are at times difficult to interpret. So we at times use 100% bar charts or waterfall charts or grouped bar charts. So it depends what is easy to read for your audience. Accordingly, you will choose. So basically, bar chart you will use whenever you want to show composition of categories. Second most commonly used chart in data storytelling is scatter plot. So scatter plot means whenever you are trying to show relationship between the variables. So if you have two variables and you are trying to show whether the variables increase over time or decrease together. Okay, I have written initial of my name. Okay, so you see a pattern when X increases here, how Y varies with X, whether it is increasing or decreasing. So we see up to this point, it's increasing, here it is decreasing, increasing, decreasing. Now it's kind of linear pattern, but we may have different pattern, linear, non-linear, monotonous, non-monotonous. So all these kind of things, but just I have given you one pointer. Whenever you want to see the relationship between two numerical variable, then you will use scatter plot. Now when you use a scatter plot, we have so many tools these days, and these tools gives us the flexibility to use some more predictors in that. So we have X here, we have Y here, and we have different points. But you might have seen that we can use different colors or different size or different markers to represent different data points. So we might use different markers here. And in this data set, we see that these red points represent something else and yellow points represent something else. So in scatter plots, depending upon your tool, but we have these aesthetics which can help us to get more insights with respect to some other variable. So size, shape, markers, markers is shape, and color. So if you use these aesthetics, basically you can use up to 5 different variables in a single plot, but you need to see whether you can read that or not, whether it makes sense to use these many variables or not. It's up to you. You can always use faceting or trellis chart. Every tool gives you all those facility to create those charts. And I'm not talking about histogram and density plot, QQ plot. Those are basically used in exploratory data analysis. And another one which is useful is line chart. So whenever you try to see patterns or you try to compare something, you use line chart. Usually it is with respect to time, sometimes otherwise also. So suppose this is for your first series or maybe product 1 or product A, and you want to see how it is behaving with respect to time. So here on x-axis you have time. So when you have from 2010 up to 2020 data, so you see that product A, its sale or demand or whatever you are plotting, it's increasing trend. At times it is decreasing to some point, but overall it has increasing trend. And if you look at, let me take something else. Yeah. If you want to compare multiple things, then you can draw multiple lines in the same chart and you can compare. So there are scenarios where you prefer to use line chart. You all must have seen the COVID-19 charts where we have the number of cases increasing day by day. Unfortunately, recovery rate is also increasing, but it's less than the. We also see the death rate is also increasing. In some countries, the curve is now flattened up. It's like this. So we have seen these kind of a chart, which are basically the trend chart or the line chart. So there are scenarios where instead of bar chart, also you can use line charts. We will see some of the glimpses of those charts. But as I said, I'm not spending too much time on selecting the appropriate visual. Rather, I would be focusing more on how you tell stories with that visual. Sometimes, as I said, you have choice. So for this data, you have a choice of selecting a pie chart or a bar chart. And you might have heard that pie is not a good choice of a statistician and data scientists. They almost hate pie charts. But those who are into dashboarding, they use pie chart and donut charts, probably because it looks pretty. But it's a controversial topic. Let's not go into that detail. So for the same data, you can have these two kind of charts. I believe this one is more readable. So you can easily compare the length or the heights of the bar as with versus if you compare the area. So our mental facility or our brains are wired like that. We can easily compare in one dimension. We just need to compare the heights or the width of the bar. But we in pie chart, we need to compare the areas. So if the numbers are not written, we can't quickly compare. If we have so many categories, it's really difficult to read a pie chart because we have small slices here. And for these small slices, it's really hard to compare their area if it is not written. In bar chart, it's comparatively better. Plus in bar chart, we can arrange them in ascending or descending order to get more insight. So in a way, I feel bar chart is better, but it's subjective also and controversial topic. You see, we have already discussed that we have choice to represent the data in the form of grouped bar chart. This is grouped bar chart, and this one is stacked bar chart. So we have choice. We need to choose the visual carefully. Some of the slides I have added so that you can read it later. Some pointers it will give you about how to select the chart. It's not the complete list, but it includes all the popular charts, when to use tree map, when to use what chart, based on different objectives or based on different data types. But let's skip that discussion. And yes, heat map also you use frequently. So whenever you want to show some numbers and you want to see how these numbers are there on a number scale, what are the numbers which are largest number or smallest number, then you might use color coding. So basically color coding is the important aspect of heat chart. So if this table I give it to you, it would be difficult to read and see where you have highest numbers or the lowest number. But if you look at this, this is not a great chart because we see here the months name are arranged alphabetically. It should be in the order of months of year. But anyways, I have taken the snapshot from some web resources. So in 2010, if you read, you see here the dark color represent higher number and the light color represent the lower number. So you are able to see that in the month of July, August and September, you have highest sale in 2010. And in the month of December, you have lowest sale when you are talking about 2010. And similarly, you can read it for different rows. So whenever you want to read and compare these numbers in a large table or a matrix, you would like to use heat map. We all use a scatter plot matrix, or we use the correlation matrix to understand the relationship between the variables. But if again in correlation matrix we have the numbers, and you might be knowing, those who are doing data science, they might be knowing that we can just read upper triangular part or lower triangular part. It's the mirror image. So it's not that quick or easy to read and compare all those numbers. But if we add the color coding here, you see that blue color represent the positive relationship, red color represent the negative relationship. Here is in between no relationship. And the saturation of the color, the darker the color, greater the number. So you get an insight that here, quickly glancing, the highest correlation, the darkest blue color is between this variable pot S and this variable fiber. And highest negative correlation, quickly we can get a glance that it is there between these two variables. So we get some insight quickly by using the color coding in the form of heat map. Now let me skip this example. You can read it later. It's just showing you for some data which is there from Pew Research Center. They have shown this chart, which is a recent example of black and white protest in America, and how they perceive police, black people and white people, their perception about whether the police is protecting people from crime, whether they are using right amount of force for every situation. So their perception. In the same chart, for the same data, you can represent it in the form of these charts also. So this is also line chart, this is also line chart. But depending upon what you are trying to convey, where you are trying to focus your audience, you can create these kind of lines or you can create these kind of lines. But I am not reading every chart in detail, we have shortage of time. Some charts are misleading. If you look at this chart, and we see these charts every day in news and reports and news channels, and even politicians use these charts to convey their point. So we see that the tax cut rate expire, and the comparison is given earlier the tax cut rate was this, and now it is this. It is the old chart from 2013 when Bush has introduced a new rate. And here we see the relative change is very high. If you compute the relative change, it is 460% relative change. So it is just to show the audience that the relative change is that high. But what wrong they have done? They have not used the baseline 0. They have started their chart with 34. Actually, the chart, the bar chart or the column chart should always start with 0. Now there are ways, if you have some particular categories very tall and you want to represent that well, there are ways to use the panel chart and something. But for this chart, it is misleading because the baseline is starting from 34. If you start it with 0, now your chart looks like this, and the comparative difference is very less. But you are showing that chart to your audience and they are seeing that difference is very high. So you are basically trying to fool your audience. You are just inflating the impact. Actually, the increase in 13%, but you are inflating it and you are showing it to you, the audience. Later, I have included some links like today's tweet. If you look at today's LinkedIn post by Arvind Kejriwal, he has also shown a chart in which he has not used 0 baseline and he was trying to inflate his point. Similarly, if you just quickly Google Trump charts are always inflated. He also used the non-zero baseline charts just to show or convey his point regarding how much changes there are in a particular point. This is also similar example. So let's skip this. Now, when do you need to add interactivity? So these days we have nice visuals, tools, and they gives us a lot of flexibility. But the point I'm trying to convey is you should use interactivity only when it supports you to tell a story or it supports you to make your point. Sometimes the adding interactivity is too much distractive and audience is not able to get your point. They are just looking at the moving points there and they are not able to gain what you are trying to convey them. Then you should not use interactivity. But you can look at Gapminder and beautiful stories using interactive data visualization. That's an art too, how to represent and tell a story using interactive visuals. Now let's talk about eliminating clutter. You need to think of cognitive load of the audience. Basically, cognitive load means how much effort they need to put to read your chart. You try to decrease that. And there are some principles. So data ink ratio, you try to minimize the ink or the noise in the chart. You try to maximize the message. And there are some Gestalt principles. Now we are not talking about those things. But you can see instead of this table about some movie or something, if you just try to look at the first column, you have the name repeated so many times. So if you just write it once, it will do the job. And similarly, you can do these many decimal places you don't need when you are just having a glance of the table. You don't need borders, you don't need colors, you don't need shadings. You do it and you get this table, which is much better. Now your focus is quickly on the line which is highlighted. Instead of spending more time on this and putting more efforts, giving more strain to your eyes, this one is better. You can read it in a better way. Different examples I have included. So different colors are beautiful, but we should not use them all the time. We should use them very wisely. So we should most of the time use gray shading and just highlight the thing which we are trying to focus our audience attention on. Plus one more thing here, you see the products are arranged A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but it's not that easy to compare which product is having the highest, whatever it is, sales or the lowest sale. And if we arrange them in this order, we are able to see that highest sale is for product G and lowest is for product 5, right? And different other pictures, you can see that these fonts and stars, and you don't need all those colors, different fonts, bold, italic, everything. And you don't need a red colored text box here. You can simply write it in a text. You don't need a bar chart with so many colors here. It looks awful. If you just create a chart like this, and if you just write the required text, it looks better. Some more examples. Now, you need to focus your attention where you are talking about. So if I simply write some numbers, and if I say that, can you find any odd numbers or any number which quickly you can get. I think your focus is immediately going to this number which I have written in large font, right? So you have strategies where you can get your audience focus. So if I give you a quiz to find the odd one out, you will take few seconds and probably you will find the odd emojis out of this, but it might take little time, few seconds for all of you to get the odd emojis. But if I ask you in this slide to find the odd emoji, mean the emoji with the different expression, now you can quickly see because I have enlarged its size. So it's quickly, you can quickly see and find out the odd one out. Or otherwise, if I just colored it differently, or I have just misaligned it, or I have changed its position, basically I have done something with this, you will be able to find the odd one quickly. Same concept we can apply in the graphs. Like in this, I have also added one more different emoji and aligned differently. Same concept, same logic we can apply in our graphs also. So we can use orientation, shape, length, and all those things to focus our audience attention. Anyone saying something? Yeah, I know we are running out of time. I'll try to wind up very soon. Give me 5 more minutes. So if we look at the design concern for a vehicle model, these are basically some car design concerns, that engine power is less than expected, or there is so much noise, or seat material is not good enough. So there are some concerns, and we have collected top 10 design concerns and we have plotted them nicely in the form of horizontal bar chart, and we have arranged them also in that order so that we can see the order that this is the topmost concern. The engine power is the worried thing. But here we are not highlighting anything. If we want to highlight something, if we want to focus our readers' attention to something, we can now use colors. So we have used the gray scale for rest of the things. We have used colors only for the things which we are trying to highlight. If I show this chart to you, because I am now running very quickly, you might not be able to gain the message right at the moment. But when you will revisit the slide, you will understand that in this particular chart, you are now able to find out the top 7, means out of top 10 design concern, these 7 are having 10 or more concern per 1000. Usually we talk about per 100, means 100%. The data is here per 1000. So all these 7 which I highlighted are having 10 or more value. So we see that 7 of the 10 concern are having 10 or more concerns per 1000. And we need to see whether it is acceptable default rate, or we need to do something with these things. We need to improve the car design or vehicle design. Now, what next we have done is, we have done the light shades to these 7 concerns which we are focusing to. And again, we have highlighted 3 things. And if we look carefully, these 3 highlighted bars are related to noise. So we get more insight that out of top 10 design concerns, 3 are related to noise. So if we are trying to convey this message, we can use highlighting like this. So basically, we need to use colors very wisely to highlight or to make attention of our audience in that chart. We simply just don't use colors because they look beautiful. We need to use colors when we need that. That's it. And we need to look at some other design aspect also. So if I just ask you what is this chart, which is peaking trend, which is peaking twice a year in March and December, you will not be able to guess, I think. Maybe you will guess something, but you will not get more insight. But if I just add access label, if I get more information, you will be able to know. Basically, this is the chart of breakup times, and David McDaniels has analyzed breakup times using Facebook, and he has done scraping using the words breakup and broken up. He has collected data and he has created the this chart. So basically, he knows when you are most likely to break up with your partner and least likely to break up on the Christmas day. So people don't prefer to do their breakup on Christmas. Mondays are bad, probably because you have terrible weekends, or probably you have more work. So people break up more on Monday, because you see here seasonal pattern. So those who understand time series data, they might be able to see the weekly season also here, and different reasons he has given, or different thoughts he has discussed about why people break up that time. one more example, if you want to show your if you want to grab audience attention on these 3 product categories or these 3 market segments where you have the highest increase or whatever it is, US population and our customer. So if you want to grab audience attention on these, you don't need colors for rest of the categories. Put them in the grayscale and definitely do something with the alignment. It doesn't look misalignment. You don't need red colored chart title. You can make it gray. You can make it put it on the left aligned side. You can make the font size better. So now it looks better. So you need to look for aesthetics also, design changes also when you try to do data storytelling. You need to choose your chart wisely also. So I'm not discussing, but then in this one simple example, you can talk about chart type. So this is a bar chart years 2008 to 12. So whenever you have years, you might think of using line chart also. And you can talk about design also, you can talk about focus also. So if you have highlighted, now quickly everyone's attention is there on this particular line and not on these lines. So you can use all these things. So instead of using this kind of a dashboard, this looks pretty and you understand it more. There are so many bad data visuals. If you just quickly Google junk charts, bad charts, ugly charts. So there are so many websites where you can find out bad charts. I would suggest take those bad charts and try to improve those charts and try to create a great story. Just one story I would like to discuss here. So this is a chart which represent ticket volume received and ticket volume processed. So in a company, suppose you are raising a ticket for some complaint. So they are measuring how many tickets they are getting. So 160 something. And in the month of January, they have received 160 tickets and they have processed all. In Feb also they have processed. In March, they have processed but little less. There is some gap. 241 they have received and they were able to process this. You see here. But this chart is not that easy to read and you are not getting the complete picture. Now, if you do modification with the chart, if you understand the data and you create this data story, it's much more readable. You see that the title says, please approve the hire of 2 FTEs. So basically you are trying to convey someone in your company that you need 2 more person for the ticket processing because to backfill those who quit in the past year. So you have used text here to make the complete picture that last year 2% have quit and resigned and you have not filled them again. You have not hired any new. And how it is impacting because you have 2 less person for the same job. So you have measured ticket volume over time. So here it is number of tickets. You see the y-axis looks prettier than before. You see x-axis also it looks pretty because you have used the alignment nicely instead of those tilted. So in 2014 you have plotted from Jan to December and the gray line is received. So instead of putting the labels here for received and processed, you have written it here. So removing the clutter. Gray line represent received and blue represent processed. So you see that earlier you were able to process almost all the tickets which you were receiving. In May, you see that it starts to have different lines, so gap in the ticket processing. And you have explained it using the text, which makes it a very great story. 2 employees quit in May and you have nearly kept the incoming volume for next few months, but the gap started increasing after August. So you see that May and June, the gap is still low, July is still low, but in August you have too much gap. You got 202 complaints and you were able to process just 156. So which might result in customer dissatisfaction and customer might go away from you. So which might be a problem of churn. You might lose your business. So you are trying to grab attention. You are trying to put your focus on that because 2 employees have quit in May and we have not hired anyone new. In spite of your people doing overtime, we are not able to maintain the gap. It's increasing day by day. So please hire 2 more person. So if you want to convey that message to your hiring manager or someone in your company, this makes a great story. And if you show this chart to them, probably they will not be convinced. Probably they will not be able to understand. So this one is a better representation line chart is better. We have used grayscale, we have used text, we have used highlighting the important information. We have added data points only when needed. So if we put all the data points here, it would be too much clutter. But we want to show when the gap starts increasing too much. So we have added data points so that they can quickly read also. So in between also, when you are trying to create this kind of a data story, definitely in the process you will create so many graphs, and with time you try to improve that. So you need to find out. And as I said, you can click to this link and you can see some graphs and a lot of discussion there. People keep on debating whether that graph is complete or not, what's wrong with that graph. So it's interesting kind of, if you're interested, just on LinkedIn or Twitter, you just read different people graph and their discussion and debates. It will give you more insight. One more here for Trump chart, which I was talking about. Now, these are some of the recommended readings and some of the blogs, some of the books which you must read if you are into this domain, some of the great people to follow. And for your queries, you can contact me. I have so many online profiles where I write answers. I contribute on these research communities. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can watch my YouTube. And just to mention this thing, thank you for watching. Now it's time for query. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Nisha. There is actually a couple of questions in chat from Sheka Chan. There's quite a few blocks if you want to read them and answer them in your own words.
Let me check. I think understanding of storytelling means like comic books giving multiple squares, rectangles with. That is also storytelling, Shekha, that when you use squares, rectangles in the comics books to create a story can be anything. You can you can tell a story by using visuals. You can create a story by using videos, by using text, by using numbers. You see the marketing campaigns. If you try to market something, you can create a very wonderful story by a short video just of 1 or 2 minutes. You try to convey your message. Today morning I was looking at an old video of Samsung where there were a marketing guy who was going to the outskirts and the area where which is not accessible, and just to meet the customer demand, customer complaint, and they have conveyed the message that sometimes we need to go far to satisfy our customer, and we are happy to do that. So you can create your story there also, but today's topic we have focused on how you can do data storytelling just by using visuals, and some aspects we have discussed, just the broad line aspect we have discussed. Second question I can see is chart and graphs only convey one aspect or most few aspect but not the whole story. Yeah, definitely it conveys only one aspect. So as I shown you in the PPT here, if you look at this discussion here for today's tweet by Delhi CM, and you will see that people have discussed a lot there, that you have just shown that his government has invested a lot on government schools infrastructure, and that's why the passing percentage of students has increased. But people have debated that you are not showing the complete picture because the enrollment is going down, or class 10th result is not that great, or it's not just because of you have invested in infrastructure, and there are so many things. So basically, to avoid statistical lies, you need to keep in mind that you don't try to hide something important. You need to take care of that thing, that you don't miss the important insight. You need to definitely show which convey your message, keeping in mind that you don't manipulate with the data, you don't manipulate with the things. So the link which I have already mentioned in the presentation, charts, do's and don'ts, you will see there that you should not, what you should not do when you are creating a chart. But 1 hour is quite a less time to discuss all those topics. So I have just given you an overview. I hope that makes sense. And any other question? Data, same question. Yeah, someone is asking, I have shown some links, how you will get access to those links. So definitely I'll be sharing my presentation with the host, and they will be sharing it with you. Any other question? I think we got some more questions when you have done your registration form, when you have filled that. So I think I don't need to now share my screen. Can you still see my screen anyways?
No,
So,
your screen's gone.
Okay, so I got some of the questions. So let me quickly just answer some of the questions. So I think I have already answered the questions like how you can be a good storyteller. So you need to have information, you need to have the climax in that, and you need to take care of the narrative arc. You need to take care of design, you need to take care of focus. But if I just summarize 3 points, you need to take care. First point is you need to take care of your audience. You need to take care of the context for which you are creating the story. Second point is you need to take care where you want to put your audience focus. We have seen some stories in the presentation that how you can use colors and other design aesthetics to grab audience attention. So there are pre-attentive attributes you need to take care. And definitely third point is you need to use the text, because people usually think that in chart you don't need to write text. You need to use clear access labels, you need to use a clear title, and whenever something happens which is something which you need to understand, you need to use text. You see that in this story they have used a lot of text. So you need to take care of those 3 important aspects to create great story. Secondly, someone is asking how to start data science and AI career. So basically it depends upon where you are in your journey. So are you an academician? Are you a software engineer? What are your current skill sets? That is one thing. Second point, you need to keep in mind that what role you are looking for. Everyone cannot be a data scientist. So are you looking for data engineer? Are you looking for the role of ML engineer? Are you looking for the role of data scientist? Are you looking for the role of visualization expert? So depending upon what role you are looking for and where you are in your journey right now, where your current skill sets matches, then you need to choose your path. So it's a very long discussion, but depending upon these things you need to choose. I can't discuss a lot of things right now. Now someone has talked about how to master the skill of developing gripping narratives. So I think I have answered this thing, that when you are trying to create great stories, you need to keep in mind narrative arc. How to use different data visualization tools. So there are so many tools to choose from depending upon what's your job role. Sometimes some companies specifically want you to use a particular tool. You are good in Power BI, but the company wants you to use TableView. Then you need to learn that tool. So this is one thing. Secondly, you need to choose your tool depending upon what's your requirement. You can do great visuals in Excel also. And if you are a research scholar, usually use SPSS and MOS and those things. But R is also a great start there. R has a great data visualization libraries, and you can create very nice tools in R also. Dashboarding, if you want to use, you need to go for specific tools for dashboarding. Data processing method and EDA, I can't cover that right now, but you need to do data validation, data cleaning, data exploration, and transformation of variables, selecting the right features, sometimes creating new features. That's all includes in data processing. One question is that I'm a storyteller. I don't know how with data. I think I have answered that query in the first. Someone is asking how to build a career as a data analyst related to academics, not in the corporate world. So if you are trying to build your career or start your career as a data analyst, few skills you must attain. First of all, you must have a passion for understanding data, and you need to learn some of the tools like databases, SQL, how you can make your data queryable and searchable for others. You need to have some statistical concepts so that you can perform EDA, exploratory data analysis. You need to have some background in either R or Python, or maybe SAS, or if some company demands something else, but R and Python are the common one. You need to have some like quest to play around with the data, and some data visualization skills obviously, so that you can do. One interesting question I got, and I think it would be the last question. Yeah, there are so many. Okay, throw some light on the storytelling for underdog and top dog brands. So basically, those who don't understand, underdog and top dog brands are the brands which are very popular brands in the particular domain. For example, like Amazon, it's popular in, if you look at mobile phones, so Apple, it's the top brand. So these are top dog. Underdog, which are not that popular, which they are trying to do the brand building. So how you can use data for your underdog brand? So it's an interesting question. So basically, if you look at one example, one data story regarding, like if you look at diapers, so Pampers is the popular brand, and if we look at the data for Canadian population, so Pampers was earlier the most popular brand. Everyone was buying Pampers diaper, and all the Canadian hospitals were having like tie-ups with the Pampers brand, that anyone who is willing to buy those diapers, they were diapers were provided by the hospitals were Pampers diaper. So it was a challenge for Huggies. They want to create their brand. They want to make a space for themselves. So what they have thought of 2 points. First, their name is Huggies. So they have created awareness in the expectant mothers and their families, the importance of hug. How it is important for babies to get skin to skin contact and hug. And secondly, they have launched a campaign where they have put the volunteers in the hospitals to hug the babies who don't have their mothers to hug them for some reason, maybe some medical reason. Mother is there in some ICU or some treatment, mother is not able to hug the baby. And we can relate it in the current scenario also, that due to COVID-19, sometimes mothers are not able to hug the baby. So they have understood the pain point, and they have launched the campaign there, putting up the volunteer who are hugging the baby and increasing the skin to skin contact. And definitely it has so many benefits in brain development of the child and giving him confidence. So many things are there. So people started liking Huggies, people started buying Huggies, and the data shows that there was almost 20-30% increase in the Huggies sale that time. So these kind of things you need to keep in mind, that during the last trimester, they have done some campaigning, they have done some storytelling to convince the mother the importance of hug. And when they are in the hospital, they were having this campaign. So it was a good marketing tactic. There are so many things, but let's not go into that. Yeah, how to weave a news story around the secondary data used by people. So you can use a storytelling for primary data or for secondary data, just that what point you are trying to fetch. The example which I was giving the stories by Ben Willington. So he has used all the public data, all the data by New York government. This video was for Huggies, but I think you can look at his video. I'll share the link with you. He has used all the public data only, where he has created some wonderful stories which has actually impacted many, and government has taken action in based on his recommendation. Next question I am getting is how to make data interesting for one and all. Data is boring for many, data is interesting. It depends upon what you are trying to do with the data. I think I have answered most of the question. Yes, data storytelling is applicable in financial management also, and some different resources for advanced Excel. It's not relevant here, but one of my favorite website is chandu.org. There are many resources. Chandu.org, I find it's really interesting. You can go there. Data collection technique, behavior. I'm not teaching you research methodology right now, but you need to do read those things, particularly for understanding data collection and data analysis technique for behavioral research. And how do you manage data effectively? That time you need to understand data management, and we have so many tools for data management which we are not discussing right now. So I think I have answered most of the questions which I have got in your registration form as well as in your chat window. If I'm missing some important question, you can write here. Else you can always contact me. Now you have my LinkedIn or other details, so you can ask your question there also. Anything else?
I think that seems to be all the questions that we have for now. So thank you, Dr. Nisha. It was an amazing presentation. And thank you for everyone who joined us today. If you would like to keep track of future events, you can register at bijb.study or fill out a questionnaire at bijb.study/trainer if you would like to become a trainer as well. Those links are now in chat as well. Thank you so much to everyone. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.